Maya Rodriguez pressed her face against the cold metal window of the space station. Far below, Earth looked sick. The blue and green planet she had known all her life was now covered in dark clouds and red spots. The red spots were fires. Big fires that burned entire cities. She had been watching for 3 days now. 3 days since the alien ships came and dropped their terrible weapon. The weapon was making Earth's core unstable. Soon, very soon, the whole planet would break apart. Like a cracked egg. Maya was a soldier. She had been fighting for 15 years. First, she fought drug dealers who crossed the border into Texas. Then she fought Chinese soldiers on the moon. She was good at fighting. She was good at winning. But this time, she could not win. Nobody could win against this. The elevator behind her made a soft sound. Captain Jake Morrison walked up to her. His face was dirty and tired. He had been working for 20 hours straight, helping load the last ships with people trying to escape. "The final transport is almost ready," Jake said. "We need to go now, Colonel." "The reactor is getting too hot." Maya did not turn around. She kept looking at Earth. How many people are still down there? Jake was quiet for a long moment. "The computers say about 2 million, maybe more. Most of them are in the deep shelters, but ... But the shelters won't protect them when the core explodes," Maya finished. "No, they won't." Maya thought about her parents. They lived in Austin, Texas. She had called them 5 days ago when the aliens first attacked. She begged them to leave, to get on one of the evacuation ships. But her father was stubborn. He said he was born in Texas and he would die in Texas. Her mother would not leave without him. Austin was gone now. One of the first cities to burn. "Colonel, we really need to go," Jake said again. "The alien ships are coming back. Our scouts say they have about 6 hours before they reach us." Maya finally turned around. The space station around them was mostly empty now. A few weeks ago, it had 3,000 people living and working here. Now only 200 remained. All volunteers. All people who chose to stay behind and help others escape. "Jake, how long do we need to hold them off?" "The last transport needs 4 hours to reach safe distance. After that ... Jake shrugged. "After that, it doesn't matter what happens to us." Maya nodded. She understood. They were going to die here. All of them. But if they could keep the alien ships busy for 4 hours, thousands more humans would live. She walked to the control room. The other volunteers were there, checking weapons and making final preparations. She saw people from many countries. Americans like her, but also Russians, Chinese, Germans, Japanese. People who had been enemies just a few years ago were now working together. Sergeant Lisa Carter looked up from her computer screen. "Colonel, I have good news and bad news." "Give me the bad news first." "The aliens are sending their whole fleet. 50 big ships, maybe more. They want to make sure nothing survives. And the good news?" Lisa smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "We have enough nuclear missiles to make them really angry." Maya laughed. It felt strange to laugh when the world was ending, but she could not help it. "How angry?" "Angry enough to forget about chasing the transport ships. They'll be too busy dealing with us." An hour later, the alien ships appeared on their screens. They were big and dark, shaped like twisted metal flowers. Maya had seen them before, during the first attacks. Each ship was the size of a city and carried enough firepower to destroy a continent. "All stations, this is Colonel Rodriguez," Maya spoke into her radio. "Remember, we don't need to win. We just need to buy time. Fight smart, not hard. Make every shot count." The battle began slowly. The aliens were careful. They had learned that humans were dangerous when cornered. They sent small groups of fighters first, testing the station's defenses. Maya's people were ready. They had turned the space station into a fortress over the past 3 days. Every corridor had guns. Every room had explosives. The docking bays were filled with remote-controlled bombs disguised as cargo containers. The first wave of alien fighters flew into their trap. Maya watched as dozens of enemy ships exploded in bright flashes of light, but more kept coming. Always more. "Second wave incoming," Lisa called out. "These ones are bigger." Maya could see them on the main screen. The aliens had learned from the first attack. This time they were sending their heavy ships, the ones with thick armor and powerful shields. "Switch to armor-piercing rounds," Maya ordered. "Target their engines first, then their weapons." The space around the station filled with light and fire. Human weapons fought against alien technology. For a moment, Maya felt hope. Her people were good fighters. They were holding their own. Then the third wave arrived. "My God," Jake whispered. The alien command ships were enormous. Each one was bigger than the space station itself. They moved slowly, but their weapons were devastating. When they fired, whole sections of the station's outer hull simply disappeared. "Hull breach on level 7, someone reported over the radio. "We're losing atmosphere." "Hull breach on level 12. Emergency doors are sealed." "Level 3 is gone, completely gone." Maya felt the station shake under her feet. They were losing. She had known they would lose, but seeing it happen was different from knowing it would happen. "Colonel," Lisa said quietly, "the transport ship is at safe distance. They made it." Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders. They had done it. Thousands of people were safe because of what they had done here. "All right, people," she said into her radio. "Time for the final act. Everyone to the escape pods. We've done our job." But even as she said it, Maya knew not everyone would make it. The station was breaking apart. Many of the escape pod bays were already destroyed. She made her way through the damaged corridors, helping wounded soldiers reach the remaining pods. The station's lights flickered on and off. The air was getting thin dot in the end, only 12. Pods managed to launch before the station's reactor finally exploded. Maya was in the last one, watching through the small window as the place she had called home for 3 days turned into a ball of fire. Behind the explosion, Earth hung in space like a broken toy. As she watched, cracks appeared on its surface. The planet that had given birth to humanity was dying. Maya closed her eyes and tried not to think about the future. She was alive, but everyone she had ever cared about was gone. Her parents, her friends, her home, her whole world. Everything was gone. When she opened her eyes again, Earth was splitting apart. 3 months after Earth died, Maya Rodriguez stood in line at the food station on Kepler Station. The line was long and moved slowly. Everyone in the line looked tired and sad. They were all refugees now. People without a home. Maya held her metal tray and waited. She wore simple gray clothes like everyone else. The clothes were given to them by the Galactic Council. The Council was a group of alien races that controlled most of the galaxy. They said they wanted to help humans, but Maya was not sure if that was true. The person giving out food was a Kelthari. The Kelthari looked like giant blue cats with 4 arms. This one had kind eyes, but Maya could see pity in them. She hated that look. She had seen it every day for 3 months. "Here you go, human," the Kelthari said, putting a bowl of thick soup on Maya's tray. "There is bread today." Real bread from wheat grown on Centauri colony. Maya nodded and took her food. She found an empty table in the corner and sat down. The soup tasted like nothing, but it was food. It would keep her alive 1 more day. At the next table, 2 men were talking quietly. Maya recognized them. They had been on the same refugee ship that brought her here. One was a farmer from Iowa. The other had been a teacher in California. "I heard the Zephyrians hit another colony," the farmer whispered. "New Geneva killed everyone." Maya's spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. New Geneva colony was where many soldiers had gone after the evacuation. Jake Morrison had gone there. Lisa Carter, too. They were trying to start a new life far from war. Are you sure? The teacher asked. My cousin works in the communication center. He saw the reports. No survivors. The Zephyrians used their planet killer weapon again. Maya put down her spoon. She could not eat anymore. Jake and Lisa were dead. More friends gone. More good people murdered by the aliens who had destroyed Earth. She got up and walked out of the food hall. The corridors of Kepler Station were crowded with refugees from many worlds, not just humans. The Zephyrians had destroyed other planets too, but they seemed to hate humans most of all. Maya's room was small and cold. It had a bed, a desk, and a small window that looked out at the stars. She sat on the bed and put her head in her hands. For 3 months, she had tried to be normal. She worked in the cargo bay, moving boxes and containers. She tried to forget that she had been a soldier. She tried to forget about the war, but the war had not forgotten about her. That night, Maya could not sleep. She kept thinking about Jake and Lisa. They had been good soldiers. They had followed her orders even when those orders meant certain death. They had trusted her to keep them safe, and she had failed them. She got up and walked to her window. Outside, she could see the lights of other ships and stations. Somewhere out there, Zephyrian ships were hunting for more human refugees. They would find them. They would kill them. And the Galactic Council would do nothing to stop it. Maya made a decision. She put on her old military jacket. It was the only thing she had kept from her previous life. Hidden in the lining was a small computer chip. On that chip were the access codes for every human military facility that had ever existed. Most of those facilities were gone now, but some might still be out there. Maya left her room and walked through the quiet corridors. It was late, and most people were sleeping. She made her way to the docking bay where the impounded ships were kept. The ships in the impound bay belonged to people who could not pay their docking fees or who had broken station rules. They were locked up behind energy barriers, but Maya had learned a lot about security systems during her military career. She found what she was looking for in the back corner. It was a small military shuttle that had belonged to the Earth Defense Force. The shuttle was old and damaged, but Maya could see that it was still working. Someone had tried to repair it, but had run out of money. Maya used her access codes to disable the security barrier. The computer system was old, from before the war, and it still recognized her military clearance. She climbed into the shuttle and started the engines. The shuttle was small but fast. It had been designed for quick missions behind enemy lines. Maya knew this type of ship well. She had flown dozens of them during the war. As she lifted off from the docking bay, alarms started to sound. Station security would be looking for her soon. But Maya was already activating the shuttle's stealth systems. The ship disappeared from their sensors and slipped away into space. Maya set course for the outer rim. Where law was weak and dangerous, people hid from the authorities. If she was going to fight the Zephyrians, she would need weapons and supplies. The outer rim was where she could find them. For 2 weeks, Maya flew through space, stopping at small stations and hidden bases. She used her military knowledge to upgrade the shuttle. She installed better weapons, stronger shields, and faster engines. She also changed the ship's identification codes and painted over the Earth Defense Force symbols. The ship needed a new name. Maya thought about her home state of Texas. She thought about the Lone Star flag that had flown over Austin before the city burned. She painted Lone Star on the side of the ship in small letters. Maya's first mission was to rescue a group of human prisoners from a Zephyrian labor camp. She had heard about the camp from smugglers in the outer rim. The Zephyrians were using humans as slaves to mine rare metals on a dead world. The camp was small and poorly guarded. The Zephyrians did not think humans were dangerous enough to worry about. Maya proved them wrong. She landed the Lone Star on a hill overlooking the camp. Using her military training, She studied the guards and their patrol patterns. She waited until the middle of the night, when most of the guards were sleeping. Maya moved through the camp like a ghost. She disabled the security systems and opened the prison cells. Inside, she found 37 humans. They were thin and weak, but they were alive. "Who are you?" asked an old man with gray hair. "I'm Maya Rodriguez," she said. "I'm here to take you home." "Home?" The old man laughed, but it was a sad sound. "We don't have a home anymore." "Then we'll make a new one," Maya said. She led the prisoners to her ship. As they were loading aboard, the guards finally noticed what was happening. Alarms rang out. Across the camp, Zephyrian soldiers came running with their weapons. Maya fought them off while the prisoners got into the Lone Star. She had brought heavy weapons from the ship, and she knew how to use them. The Zephyrians were used to fighting scared refugees, not trained soldiers. When the last prisoner was aboard, Maya ran to the ship and started the engines. The Lone Star lifted off just as more Zephyrian reinforcements arrived. As they flew away, Maya looked back at the burning camp. She had struck her first blow against the aliens who had destroyed her world. It felt good, but it was not enough. It would never be enough. One of the rescued prisoners came up to the cockpit. It was a young woman with burns on her arms. "Thank you," the woman said. "But why did you do this? Why risk your life for us?" Maya thought about the question. She thought about Earth, about her parents, about Jake and Lisa. "Because someone has to fight," Maya said. "The Council won't do it. The other aliens won't do it, so I will. Just you? Against the whole Zephyrian fleet." Maya smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "I fought for my state once. Now I fight for every human left alive." The woman was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "What do you need us to do?" "Survive," Maya said. "Find a safe place and survive. Let me worry about the fighting." But as Maya said those words, she knew that fighting alone would not be enough. The Zephyrians were too strong, too many. She needed to find a way to hurt them badly. She needed to find their weakness, and she needed to do it before they killed every human in the galaxy. 2 years had passed since Maya Rodriguez started her war against the Zephyrians. The Lone Star drifted silently through the asteroid field near the Kappa system. Maya sat in the pilot's seat, watching the enemy supply convoy through her ship's sensors. The convoy had 12 ships. Most were cargo vessels carrying fuel and weapons. 2 were warships providing protection. Maya had been tracking them for 3 days, waiting for the right moment to strike. Maya was different now. Her hair was longer, and she had scars on her face from old battles. Her eyes were harder, colder. She had seen too much death and destruction. But she was still fighting. Always fighting. The Zephyrians called her Terra's ghost. They thought she was some kind of supernatural being seeking revenge for Earth's destruction. Maya liked that name. It made the aliens afraid. She had hit 17 supply convoys in the past 6 months. She had destroyed fuel depots, weapons factories, and communication stations. She had freed hundreds of human prisoners from labor camps. The Zephyrians were starting to worry about her, but Maya knew it was not enough. For every ship she destroyed, the Zephyrians built 10 more. For every facility she attacked, they built stronger defenses. She was just one person fighting an entire empire. The convoy was getting closer to the asteroid field. Maya waited until the ships were surrounded by the big rocks. Then she made her move. She fired her weapons at the nearest cargo ship. The explosion lit up the darkness of space. The convoy guards reacted quickly, but Maya was already moving. She flew the Lone Star between the asteroids, using them as cover. The enemy ships were too big to follow her through the narrow spaces between the rocks. Maya destroyed 3 more cargo ships before the warships found a way to reach her. She fought them for 20 minutes, dodging their weapons and firing back when she could. When her shields got too low, She used the ship's stealth systems to disappear. The Zephyrian warship searched for her for 2 hours, but they could not find her. Finally, they gave up and continued on their way with what was left of their convoy. Maya waited until they were gone. Then she collected what she could from the destroyed ships: food, medical supplies, and information. The information was always the most valuable thing she could find. This time, she found something very important. Hidden in the computer files of one of the cargo ships was a shipping manifest. It listed all the supplies being sent to different Zephyrian bases. But one entry caught Maya's attention. The manifest mentioned a special delivery to Zephyr Prime, the home world of the Zephyrian Empire. The delivery was scheduled for next month, during the Day of Victory celebration. On that day, all the top Zephyrian military leaders would gather on their home planet. Maya studied the information carefully. The delivery was not normal supplies. It was construction materials for a new monument. The monument would honor the Zephyrian victory over Earth. Maya felt anger burn in her chest. They were going to build a monument to celebrate the destruction of her world. They were going to celebrate the deaths of billions of innocent people. But the information also gave her an idea. If all the Zephyrian leaders would be on their home planet at the same time, maybe she could do something about it. Maya spent the next 3 weeks preparing for the most dangerous mission of her life. She studied everything she could find about Zephyr Prime. She learned about the planet's defenses, the layout of the capital city, and the security measures around the government buildings. The planet was heavily protected. It had orbital defense, platforms, patrol fleets, and surface-to-space missiles. Getting close to Zephyr Prime would be nearly impossible. Landing on the planet would be suicide. But Maya had learned something important during her 2 years of fighting. Sometimes the impossible plan was the only one that worked. She upgraded the Lone Star's engines and weapon systems. She stole better shields from a destroyed Zephyrian ship. She gathered intelligence from smugglers and pirates who had been to the Zephyr system. Finally, Maya was ready. She set course for Zephyr Prime, knowing that she would probably not return from this mission. The journey took 5 days. Maya used the time to record messages on her ship's computer. Messages for the human refugees scattered across the galaxy. Messages to tell them what she had learned about Zephyrian military plans. When Maya reached the Zephyr system, she found it full of ships. The celebration was bringing visitors from across the Zephyrian Empire. Maya hid the Lone Star in the shadow of a moon and waited. On the day of the celebration, Maya watched as hundreds of ships gathered around Zephyr Prime. She could see the massive space station where the ceremony would take place. All the most important Zephyrians would be there. Maya also saw something else. A ship that was bigger than all the others. It was the World Render, the command ship of the entire Zephyrian military. The ship that had given the order to destroy Earth. The World Render was where the Zephyrian High Command controlled their entire war machine. It contained the computers that coordinated attacks on human colonies. It held the plans for future genocide campaigns. Maya realized that destroying the World Render would do more than just kill the Zephyrian leaders. It would cripple their entire military organization. Without the central command structure, the scattered Zephyrian fleets would be confused and disorganized. But the World Render was protected by the strongest shields and weapons in the Zephyrian fleet. Maya's small ship could not damage it with conventional weapons. Maya looked at her ship's reactor display. The Lone Star's nuclear reactor was powerful enough to destroy a small city. If she could get close enough to the World Render, she could overload the reactor and turn her ship into a massive bomb. It would be a suicide mission. Maya would die, but she might be able to save thousands of human lives. Maya thought about all the people she had lost. Her parents in Austin, Jake and Lisa, at New Geneva Colony, the soldiers who had died defending the orbital station, all the refugees who had been murdered by Zephyrian hunter-killer squads. She thought about the human children growing up in refugee camps, always afraid, always hungry. She thought about the colonies still hiding from Zephyrian patrols, never knowing when death would come for them. Maya made her decision. She activated the lone star's engines and flew toward the world render. The Zephyrian defense ships tried to stop her, but Maya had planned her approach carefully. She came in from the direction of the sun, using its light to blind their sensors. By the time the Zephyrians realized what was happening, it was too late. Maya's ship was already too close to the world render for their big guns to target her. Maya opened a communication channel to broadcast on all frequencies. She wanted every ship in the system to hear her final message. "This is Colonel Maya Rodriguez of the United States Space Force," she said. "I fought for my state. I fought for my world. And now I fight for every human soul scattered across the stars. We are not victims. We are not broken. We are the children of Earth, and we will never stop fighting." Maya overloaded the Lone Star's reactor. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The world render was completely destroyed. The Zephyrian High Command was dead. Their central military computer was gone. Most importantly, their ability to coordinate attacks on human colonies was broken. In the months that followed, the Zephyrian Empire fell into chaos. Local commanders fought each other for control. Some fleets stopped attacking human colonies and focused on defending their own territory. Maya's sacrifice had given humanity something they had not had since Earth's destruction. Hope. Human refugees across the galaxy heard her final message. They began to organize. They began to fight back. They began to remember that they were not just survivors, but the children of Earth. And in the refugee camps and hidden colonies, parents began to tell their children stories about Terra's ghost, about the soldier who had fought alone against an empire and won. Maya Rodriguez had become a legend. Her war was over, but humanity's fight for survival had just begun. 10 years after Maya Rodriguez died destroying the world render, Commander Ben Parker stood on the bridge of the human warship New Austin. The ship was named after Maya's hometown, like many of the new human vessels built in the past decade. Had been just a child when Earth was destroyed. He grew up in a refugee camp on Kepler Station, eating thin soup and wearing gray clothes donated by aliens who pitied humans. But now he commanded one of humanity's most powerful warships. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the Centauri colony," his communications officer said. "They're ready to begin the operation." Ben nodded. Today was the 10th anniversary of Maya Rodriguez's sacrifice. Today was also the day humans would finally return to their home system. The Zephyrian Empire had collapsed after Maya destroyed their command structure. Their fleets had spent years fighting each other instead of hunting human refugees. This gave humanity time to grow strong again. Human colonies had joined together to form the new Earth Federation. They built factories, trained soldiers, and constructed warships. They learned from the alien races who had helped them survive. Most importantly, they never forgot what Maya Rodriguez had taught them. "All ships, this is Commander Parker," then spoke into his radio. "Operation Homecoming begins now. Remember, we're not here for revenge. We're here to rebuild." The human fleet moved through space toward the Sol system. 50 warships, 100 cargo vessels, and thousands of colonists ready to start new lives. On the worlds where humanity was born, Earth was gone, broken into pieces that now formed an asteroid belt around the sun. But Mars was still there. Venus could be made livable with the right technology. The moons of Jupiter and Saturn could house millions of people. Ben looked at the picture on his desk. It showed Maya Rodriguez in her military uniform, taken before the war began. Every human ship carried a copy of that picture. Every human child learned her story in school. "She fought for her state, now we fight for our species," Ben said quietly. It had become humanity's unofficial motto. the fleet reached the edge of the Sol system without meeting any resistance. The few Zephyrian ships still in the area fled. When they saw the size of the human force, the aliens who had once been humanity's destroyers were now afraid of them. "Commander, we're detecting debris from the old orbital defense stations," the sensor officer reported. Ben could see the wreckage. On his screens, pieces of metal and plastic floating in space. All that remained of the stations where Maya and her volunteers had made their last stand. The stations that had bought time for the evacuation ships to escape. "Launch recovery shuttles," Ben ordered. "Collect everything you can find. This is history." The shuttles brought back fragments of the old stations. Pieces of hull plating with scorch marks from alien weapons. Computer cores that might still hold data. Personal items that had belonged to the people who died defending Earth. Among the recovered items was a piece of metal with part of a name. Painted on it, the letters Lone Saint were still visible. It was a fragment from Maya's ship, thrown clear when she rammed the world render. Ben held the metal fragment in his hands. It was cold and scarred by battle damage, but it represented something important. It was proof that Maya Rodriguez had existed, that her sacrifice had been real. Over the following months, the human fleet established bases throughout the Sol system. Mars was the first priority. The red planet had been partially terraformed before the war, and it could support human life with minimal equipment. New Austin became the capital city of the reborn human civilization. It was built near the site where an old research station had once stood. The city's central square featured a statue of Maya Rodriguez looking up at the stars. But humanity's return to the Sol system was not just about rebuilding. It was also about remembering that scientists studying the remains of Earth found something unexpected. Deep in the asteroid field that had once been their home world, they discovered a pocket of preserved atmosphere. Inside that pocket, floating in zero gravity, were seeds from Earth's last forests. The seeds had somehow survived the planet's destruction, protected by their own natural casings and the cold of space. When the scientists planted them on Mars, they grew into trees that had not been seen for over a decade. News of the Earth seeds spread throughout human space. Colonies that had been founded on distant worlds sent ships to collect their own samples. Soon, Earth trees were growing on 100 different planets. Children who had never seen Earth could now sit under oak trees and apple trees, connecting them to the world their grandparents had called home. The trees became symbols of humanity's ability to survive and grow, even after losing everything. Ben Parker, now promoted to admiral, stood in the Earth Memorial Garden on Mars. The garden contained plants from every region of the old world. Roses from England, cherry trees from Japan, redwoods from California, and bluebonnets from Texas. The bluebonnets were Maya's favorite flowers. Ben had learned that from her military records, which had been recovered from a damaged database. Every spring, when the bluebonnets bloomed, people gathered to remember her sacrifice. Admiral Parker, a young woman, approached him. She wore the uniform of the Federation Space Force. "I'm Lieutenant Sarah Mills. I wanted to thank you." "Thank me for what, Lieutenant?" "My grandparents were on one of the last evacuation ships from Earth. They survived because Colonel Rodriguez and her people held off the Zephyrians long enough for the transports to escape. I wouldn't exist without her sacrifice." Ben nodded. He heard stories like this often. Millions of humans could trace their survival back to Maya's final stand at the orbital defense station. "She saved all of us," Ben said. "Not just the people on those ships, but every human born since then. Without her sacrifice, the Zephyrians would have completed their genocide." "Do you think she knew?" Sarah asked. "Do you think she knew what would happen after she died?" Ben looked at the statue of Maya Rodriguez in the center of the garden. The artist had carved her with a determined expression, eyes fixed on the stars. "I think she knew that someone had to make a stand," Ben said. "She knew that humanity needed hope more than it needed one more soldier." She gave us that hope. As they talked, children ran through the garden, playing among the earth flowers. Their laughter echoed off the dome that protected the garden from Mars' thin atmosphere. They were the first generation of humans to grow up without fear of extinction. Some of the children stopped to look at Maya's statue. Their teachers had told them her story many times. She was the soldier who saved humanity. She was the woman who fought alone when no one else could fight. But to the children, she was something more. She was proof that one person could change everything. She was proof that courage and sacrifice mattered, even when the odds seemed impossible. One little girl placed a freshly picked bluebonnet at the base of the statue. It was a tradition that had started spontaneously and continued every year. People brought flowers to honor the woman who had died so they could live. Ben watched the little girl and smiled. Maya Rodriguez had fought for her state of Texas when Earth existed. She had fought for humanity when Earth was gone. Now 10 years later, she was still fighting in the hearts and minds of every human child who learned her story. The war against the Zephyrians was over. Humanity had not only survived but grown stronger. New colonies were being founded every year. New technologies were being developed. New generations were being born free from the fear that had haunted their parents. Maya Rodriguez had kept her promise. She had fought for every human soul scattered across the stars. And because of her sacrifice, those souls had found their way home.